Have you ever caught yourself doing this? Just waiting for that one movie-like moment to finally change your life. You know exactly what I mean. That dramatic turning point where the music swells, all the answers magically appear, and suddenly, boom, everything just clicks into place. I mean, we all do it, right? We wait for January 1st to start working out. Or we tell ourselves we'll change careers when the kids are a bit older. Or I'll finally start living my life once I hit this specific number in my bank account. But what if I told you the life you want isn't actually waiting for some grand entrance? In fact, the very act of waiting for that perfect moment, that might be exactly what's keeping you trapped.
So think about this for a second. Why do we feel stuck when we know exactly what to do? Honestly, you probably know the exact conversation you need to have right now. You know the habit you desperately need to break or that big project you keep swearing you're going to start. But then the time comes and you just feel paralyzed. We trap ourselves by waiting for this massive surge of inspiration. We want the movie montage. But relying on that surge, that is a really dangerous game because life just doesn't operate on cinematic timing. It operates in the mundane, quiet reality of Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons.
Okay, let's dive into this explainer and completely shatter what we can call the sudden change illusion. We have this tendency to believe that life changes in these huge, dramatic leaps. We look at highly successful people and kind of assume there was a singular day they just woke up entirely transformed. But the reality, life changes quietly. It changes in the totally ordinary, forgettable days. Real change is built through quiet, unobserved seconds that you hardly even notice are happening. To put that into perspective, cognitive science estimates we make about 35,000 remotely conscious choices every single day. 35,000! Most of them feel entirely insignificant in the moment, sure, but they are actually the architecture of your future. Consider this. Life doesn't change in dramatic moments. It changes quietly. Think about it. A lot of people believe life just sort of happens to them. They blame timing, they blame bad luck, the economy, their past. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Every life you admire, every life you envy, and yet even the life where you feel totally stuck or directionless, it was built by choices. And not always the big ones. Mostly, it's the small ones made when absolutely no one was watching. Choices that were repeated, ignored, or justified over and over again until they became the very structure of your reality. Let's look at how a seemingly harmless choice to avoid discomfort actually compounds over time. Today, you choose to delay a difficult conversation. Why? Because it feels safe, right? It avoids conflict. You tell yourself, hey, tomorrow will be better. But then next week rolls around and this uncomfortable distance forms between you and that person. The silence gets heavier. By next year, that silence has snowballed into deep resentment and a permanent erosion of the relationship. What started as just a tiny preference for comfort didn't stay small. A decision to stay comfortable today inevitably compounds into a permanent weakness tomorrow.
So if we inherently know the long-term cost, why do we naturally gravitate toward comfort and avoidance? Well, it's because comfort doesn't exactly announce itself as the enemy. It shows up as a completely reasonable option. It whispers things like, just this once, or let's wait until tomorrow when I have a bit more energy. But there is a biological reason for this. Our nervous systems are evolutionarily wired to conserve energy and avoid perceived threats. When you face a difficult task, your brain flags it as a risk. So every time you take the easier path, you aren't just resting. You're actually training your nervous system to avoid resistance, and you are actively losing the psychological strength you need to face challenges.
Look at this contrast between motivation and discipline. Because most people think change requires motivation, and it absolutely doesn't. Waiting for motivation is just a deeply flawed strategy. Why? Because your feelings are incredibly volatile. They change based on how much you slept, your stress levels, or literally what you had for breakfast. Motivation waits for clarity before doing anything. But discipline? Discipline is reliable because you decided in advance. It means removing that exhausting daily negotiation entirely. You don't wake up and debate whether you feel like doing the work, you just act. And the really incredible thing here is that clarity, confidence, and even motivation itself, they follow the movement. This brings us to a very comforting lie we tend to tell ourselves when things get heavy. We say, I had no choice. Let's break that down. Most of the time, what I had no choice really means is I didn't like the price of the better option. Having a choice doesn't mean the options are going to be easy or pain-free.
It means every meaningful option simply has a price attached to it, usually the price of acute discomfort. The discomfort of telling the truth, ending a bad relationship, or starting something before you feel completely ready. When you claim you have no choice, you're usually just refusing to pay the toll. Now, I want to help you diagnose this pattern in your own life right now. These are the signs of the daily trap. You see, avoidance rarely looks like outright self sabotage. If it were that obvious, we'd stop doing it immediately. Instead, avoidance is incredibly cunning. It disguises itself as reason, logic, and caution. It pulls you into this daily trap where you genuinely feel like you're just being smart, careful, or protective of your energy. You convince yourself that you're strategizing, but in reality, you're just stalling. Just listen to the subtle lies we tell ourselves every single day. I'll do it later. Now isn't the right time. I need to be more prepared. I don't want to rush. I have no choice. When fear whispers, avoidance listens. By waiting to feel completely ready or sufficiently motivated, using these perfectly polished excuses, you're actually letting fear cast a deciding vote in your life. And every single time fear casts a vote, it shrinks your potential. It literally narrows the range of futures available to you, boxing you into a smaller and smaller comfort zone. But here is the incredibly empowering part. You can break this cycle today. Real power doesn't live in controlling the whole world around you or waiting for the perfect circumstances. It lives in the tiny, microscopic space between what happens to you and what you choose to do next. We're going to call this the 3-second pause power. And I say that earnestly because while it sounds incredibly simple, mastering this tiny gap is the absolute foundation of redesigning your habits. The crucial point here is this tiny number, 3. 3 seconds is often completely enough to interrupt the automatic loop of your nervous system. Think about it. When you feel that sudden urge to pull away or procrastinate, giving yourself just 3 seconds of breathing room provides enough space to remember who is actually in control before you just surrender to an old habit or a familiar excuse. This brilliantly illustrates the difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is fast, it's automatic, it's unexamined. It literally gives away your control to whatever triggered you. It's basically your brain running on its oldest software. But a response? A response is slow, intentional, and chosen. It maintains your emotional command. This is the absolute essence of stoic emotional discipline. You can feel fear without becoming frozen by it. You can feel anger without becoming aggressive. Your initial feeling is just a data point, but your reactions are entirely your own responsibility. Let's make this highly actionable. Next time you feel pressure, follow these 3 steps. Step 1. Notice the trigger and feel the resistance. Is it a sudden tightening in your chest? An overwhelming urge to check your phone instead of writing that email? Allow yourself to actually feel that physical resistance without running from it. Step 2. Pause for 3 seconds to breathe. Just breathe. Step 3. Choose your response deliberately. Remember, literally anyone can react impulsively. True strength and character lie in the restraint of this very simple, quiet process. Let this sink in for a moment. You don't rise to the level of your hopes. You fall to the level of your habits. A goal without aligned daily choices is nothing more than imagination. It's a fantasy. Every habit you tolerate, every small choice you repeat on a random Wednesday afternoon is a quiet agreement you are making with your future. With every action, you are essentially signing a contract that says, this is the exact kind of life I am building. Which brings us to a very intimate, profound question. Who are you in silence? When the spotlight is completely off, when there is absolutely no immediate reward, when no one is watching to applaud your effort or judge your laziness, who are you? Because a strong, resilient life isn't built on grand public performances. It's built in the dark. It is forged in those deeply private moments when you are the only one holding yourself accountable. It's what you choose to read, what you choose to watch, what you choose to eat, what you choose to think about, and crucially, what you choose to intentionally ignore. Consistency in these silent, everyday choices compounds exponentially. Driven by neuroplasticity, your brain literally wires itself around these repetitions. This quiet consistency actually compounds faster than raw talent ever could. These silent actions send a steady, undeniable signal to your nervous system about exactly who you are becoming. Let's move to our final concept, which brings us to an incredibly powerful reality. You don't need to completely overhaul your life today. You don't need a flawless master plan, a completely empty calendar, or some brand new identity overnight. Honestly, trying to do that is usually just another form of perfectionism, which is really just a mask for avoidance. All you need is one honest decision. Just one singular choice today that firmly interrupts an old pattern of avoidance and restores your forward momentum.
Remember this, identity is not something you declare. It is something you demonstrate. Your brain is a highly skeptical judge. It is not persuaded by your good intentions, your vision boards, or your motivational thoughts. It's persuaded exclusively by hard evidence. Every single time you repeat an action, you are casting a vote for the person you are becoming. The action comes first, the identity follows. If you want to be a writer, write. If you want to be brave, do one brave thing.
And we must confront this heavy reality head on. The life you avoid today is the life you wake up in tomorrow. Avoiding discomfort doesn't protect you from pain. It just postpones it. And usually it multiplies it with interest. When you avoid making a choice, you are actively shaping a life of limitation. Because action creates information, it moves you forward. But avoidance, it only creates a comfortable illusion that will eventually shatter.
So I leave you with this final echoing question. What is the one honest decision you are avoiding right now? You already know exactly what it is. It's sitting right there in the back of your mind. It is time to stop running. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Take your 3 seconds, take a deep breath, make the choice you know you need to make, and watch how it changes everything.